So yeah, so the last thing I said, I finished with explaining how the lizard explains dot textures and frameworks, and so I guess one thing that I explained really poorly was the first step is not just a will. I don't know why I did that really, other than I was just trying to like explain it rationally to an audience instead of explaining how I experience it, which I never should do. Um, but it's not. It's the maximum efficiency principle. It's not a fucking will. It's not whatever the fuck I said it was. Like that's like the sort of objective view of it, I guess. But there is no objective view of it. Objectivity is not real. There's only the subjective views together, which creates the objective view. The first step of the bottom layer of the pyramid is the maximum efficiency principle. And now that is the will, and that is the will at the core of your being. And nothing I said was incorrect. All of that is the maximum efficiency principle. It just wasn't explaining all of it. Like the maximum efficiency principle is both the fundamental will at the core of your being, and then also the pattern that every single thing which exists and displays a will also displays the will to taste the best thought texture, the maximum efficiency principle, basically. And this is obvious. Like, you only disagree with this if your mind's made of fucking oatmeal, over microwaved oatmeal. But still, to clarify, it's the maximum efficiency principle. It is the will, but it's the fact it is the will, and then add to that the fact that the will always wants to make the will better. So it's not just the will to experience particular things, it is the will to experience better things. That is the maximum efficiency principle. The will to experience better things. Everything displays the same will to experience better things. Everything has an individual will to experience better things. So for Hitler, the individual will to explain better things may be killing Jews. If you're a Jewish person, obviously your will is probably going to look a little different. Or if you're a Palestinian versus a Jew, your views may be just a tad separate, right? And this separation, this individuality, is each individual's maximum efficiency principle. Each individual's will to have the best experiences, taste the best thought textures, however you want to put it. So that's the first step. And then I already went over the other four. And I went over for the perspective of the lizard. And that was the last thing we talked about. Then you said, should we make the lizard enjoy the war? My take on that is no, the lizard should not enjoy the war. Like I was saying, his perspective has been completely shattered. His family is dead. His planet is destroyed. His home country is no longer existent. His freedoms that he set out to protect obviously are retarded in the new context. They don't even exist anywhere near the same capacity in the modern society. And he doesn't even know if he'll ever even see the hub of modern day society because right now he's stranded on the output of the civilized universe, not the output, the outset, the outside, whatever the fuck I'm trying to say, the far edge of the civilized universe, warring against half insect, half machine terminators, termites, and he's fighting for survival. And so basically that I explain that from the perspective of, okay, he's got his maximum efficiency principle, which is started as the desire to protect his freedoms and then to protect his homeland and, his country. And then that transformed into his planet. And now his planet's gone. And now it's to sort of uphold the principles he started with, but then that eventually just becomes to survive after his whole race gets obliterated after his planet gets destroyed. Then he's not even fighting to like save his people or prolong what he used to love. Now it's just like fighting to survive mixed with the idea that maybe we're the good guys. And he's not even sure of that anymore, right? And so all of that is expressed. He expresses all of that. He personally experiences all of that through the lens of and explains in his own mind. Like I said, I don't think we really haven't talked to other people. I think that because of the nature of the simulation, I think the only person who's privy to the lizard's enlightenments are acythrial and anyone acythrial leaks to, which is the entire population. It just depends on what part of the populations watch the leak simulation, right? So basically,
Wait, it'd be interesting if somewhere in the story, at the end of it, the the insect Borg takes over the lizard and somehow learns his philosophy and does something with that.
yeah, that would be fascinating, actually. Although I don't know how far we want to go in that direction as far as you don't want to make any of the stories Disney princessy, right? You got to keep them horrific because that is the nature of God. So like you don't want to make it where like the bugs read his mind and then go like, oh my God, I understand empathy. Which is the way you would want to take that from a metaphysical perspective, sort of. But I do see what you mean. That is an interesting opportunity to at least express some ideas.
Yeah, maybe it just not less as much. It learns empathy, or maybe it just lacks meaning in whatever it is doing now. He realizes like I can't grow myself if I literally don't have a self. If that is a sense of illusion, then there's no point in constantly recreating myself in other forms.
You should read that book I sent you like a year ago, where there's that thing which it was like a zombie, but it's like a conscious zombie, and remember it said like we're going on an adventure as it killed
Yeah.
people. You know that? That was literally the conflict resolution. There was they harmonized with it because it read someone's brain and then figured out that like, wait, I want to experience the best things. I can actually experience better things if I split myself into individuals and I harmonize with these individuals, right? And so I can stay myself. I can stay one objective entity, but then I can harmonize. I can have a symbiotic relationship with these individuals, and we can work together. I don't, like I said, I don't really know if that's the direction I want to go. I don't want the story to feel at all positive. I want it to feel very cold and objective. Um, I mean, like to be able to pull off that finale, you'd have to like have him be like raped and killed for like 400 years or something before that. I mean, like
Yeah.
you you have to do something so brutal before that feels like the necessary conclusion to even make it right. But that is interesting. I will say that's a good idea. I did not think of that. Fascinating. We'll talk more about that later. So, um, that's the lizard's perspective. He's got the first five. Um, he like I said, I don't think he really ever explains them to anyone because I don't think anyone would really care. Like trying to explain like the nature of metaphysics.
It would be kind of funny to have a scene where he tries to explain it to people during war, and they're like everyone just keeps on dying around him, so he has to restart over and over again.
Yeah. Or you wouldn't even do it like that because obviously that's unrealistic. Like I said, you don't want to make it campy, but the literally almost exactly what you just said. It's just you just do that at the lunch tables. Make it where you flash between him trying to say at lunch tables. 90% of people don't want to hear it. And they're just like, "What? Shut the fuck up! I've got 30 seconds before I have to go do a million push-ups, and you're talking to me about the nature of God. I don't fucking want to hear about God. I'm about to go die brutally. You know what I mean? Like everyone's just like, do you think God would create those insect monsters? What God do you believe in? And he's like, yes, it's exactly the kind of thing God would do. Don't you see? and and then some people do like it, and then like you're saying, like you see him explain it to one guy, and then 3 days later, that man's now brutally dismembered on the battlefield, and then he tries again, starts over, he gets 5 days in this time, and then his friend gets taken off for injuries, and you know what I mean, his body parts repurposed in someone else,
And
like
then
just
imagine, yeah, and then like finally some guy like, oh, dude, I think I get it. Step 5, and then you see his head just gets blown off.
yeah, exactly, yeah, that is pretty perfect. But so yeah, um. Those first 5 steps are all his, and maybe he tries here and there, but obviously by the end of the war, he doesn't even speak it to anyone. It's just pure jaded um dancing, just movement. He doesn't think of himself as an individual. He doesn't think of anything he does as an individual. He doesn't think of it as him killing anything else. He just moves. He just does what he has to do to keep moving.
And so,
Um,
how does he? By the end of it, is he like a cyborg lizard?
yeah, I think by the end of it, he's like not even like a lizard or anything. Like I don't. I think by the end, I think we want to take it so far that by the end, he's just like parts repurposed into a war machine. Like he's got fucking Power Rangers mech or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
ship of Theseus.
yeah. Um, which would sort of represent that thing I was talking about, where it's like the core will, where it's like even if he's not even recognizable by any form of childhood self, it's still technically the same will kicking that it
Yeah.
was in the beginning. Now it's a barely thinking warlord. So that is the first part of the story. Obviously, I'm telling you, man, frozen bananas mixed with vanilla ice cream is one of the best things I've ever had in my entire life.
Yo, the frozen bananas are like a little mini ice cream.
What is it?
The frozen bananas, they are like a mini ice cream.
They are like a mini ice cream, but they're not like delicious. There's like, yeah, that's okay. But when you mix it with vanilla ice cream, it's actually like Jesus Christ. That is so good and so not sickening. It's unbelievable that's realistically achievable. Like it's like the same unhealthy level as like a sandwich.
Hmm.
Like as far as it makes me feel, it's like so much less unhealthy than like a cookie. and yet it's got it's so much better than a chocolate chip cookie. It shit stomps a brownie. It shit stomps like all of these other taste level things, and then it doesn't make you feel sick afterwards. It's just so fucking nice. But so then you have the step 2 of the story. Now you're gonna go from the lizard to Arthur and Acythrial. That is step 2 of the story. So you're going to have Zyx, Azyx, and xzaayzyx explained. So now go ahead and label the next 3 layers of the pyramid. Then so the middle, all the middle 3, 1, 2, and 3, left to right. You have Zyx, Azyx, and xzaayzyx. So in the bottom, it should be maximum efficiency principle, dot textures, frameworks, no self, and then the one or God or whatever. Um, um,
I like how
and then
MEP has the word me in it, so it just kind of like means that as well.
yeah. And then you have 6, A6, and xzaayzyx as the middle 3. So you have that, right?
Yes.
So, and now, so obviously Zyx, Azyx, and xzaayzyx are going to be initially explained through the perspective of Arthur, because the story is going to start with him. Dude, I don't know how we could do that. There are so many different ways we could do that as far as like, you could have Arthur be experienced before acythrial, which would be how it would happen linearly in their dimension by braxil. You could do it be acythrial's experience with Arthur. So like you could tell the story of Arthur, but you could tell it entirely through the perspective of acythrial until he also gets blended. So you tell it linearly in that way, starting with acythrial, and then as he gets downloaded, you learn everything about him. Right? So you have his story, but it comes through acythrial story, right? Or something else. I don't know. Point is, lots of ways to do that. What one are you leaning towards? I really have no clue
What was the
how it
first
goes
one you
up.
said?
So you can either introduce Arthur first and start with like the simulation and like him and his team, and like how you can start as like a murder mystery kind of thing where it's like he has to slowly kill his coworkers as they try and expose his plan. Um, and then like the rest of the team that he loves and cherishes, they're like wondering
That
why
feels like
they're
a cool part, but I feel like a useless part of the story per se. And it seems like it would be more like a flashback kind of scene.
yeah, it was the second option. You just make it a part of the real story.
But well, yeah. Yeah. Have a Acythrial be the and just learn his backstory as that goes.
Exactly. That seems like probably the better way to do it, but we can change it up if we find it too much there. Anyway,
But
so third,
alternatively, like having the creation of Acythrial and the simulation and all that would also be a good beginning. But I don't know necessarily like if the killing of his coworkers maybe like allude to that in the beginning, but don't talk about it, and just say that like he got the simulation running, he got Acythrial, and then you learn later what actually happened at the beginning. So it's kind of mix of both.
yeah, I don't know. I think I'd rather just go hard stop one or the other. I feel like I'd rather um either tell his full story or just allude to it entirely through Sitho's experience until Sitho learns about it. Um,
Yeah.
but so you have first you have Zyx, Azyx, and xzaayzyx expressed through Arthur's perspective or the scientist perspective, right? And so what this is going to consist of is it's going to consist of the category of life. So like they're going to be like, okay, well what is it? What categories should we split this code, this simulation into? And yeah, he's going to be like, well, I say that a Zix is life. I say a Zix is what we use for life. Is there any classification for life? And I say that we say anything which I don't know why I cannot find the word. Anything which I want to say distributes, but it means shows, demonstrates. Anything which demonstrates a will separate from that of the environment. So like a bacteria is the one I always go back to, right? It's not alive really in any way. Like there's no idea what it is. There's no idea that it is anything separate from anything else. There's no clue. There's no brain. Nothing even remotely like enough sense data to understand that it is not its environment. But it does something different than the environment around it. It is separate. It's like a code daemon, right? It's made out of code. It technically is the code, but it's doing something a little separate from the rest of the code, so you call it something in its own. That's azyx. He says anything which has its own will, that's azyx. So, and then you have azyx, and that is any code. So, where you have the equation, right? All of the code which results from the equation, all of the code which works as a universe, all of the code which is sped out by it is frameworks from the last one. And this is azyx, right? Where it's all matter, it's all series of matter. And so a chair, right, is an azyx, and you would say that you could say zix dash 141, right? Then that would refer to the 141st thing that you found that demonstrated a will. Azyx is not individual things. So whenever I say a chair is an azyx, don't think of it as azyx 141 chair would be the 141st chair, because that's not the case. azyx 141 would be the would basically be a completely like subjective number, because like I'm trying to think the best way to explain this. Imagine like I don't know, it's like a field of raspberries, or like we go to the moon. Just because you say like these are the first 10 raspberries, like just because there's an order you found them in does not mean there's any like significance to those 10 over any other 10. It's like to say Zix 141 does not mean anything about it actually being the 141st ASICs, the 141st category of material, the 141st pattern which we want to identify. It just means it is the 141st that we have identified. So if we went to the moon and we named mountains on the moon, I don't know, like even craters, right? Let's go with craters. Let's say we were naming craters on the moon, and we named the first three 1, 2, and 3. Well, there's no significance to that number. It's just that happened to be the first three that were there when we got off the spaceship. Same thing with ASICs, where everything is an ASIC, or it's the entire surface of the moon, right? The entire surface of the moon is craters, but we label specific ones because of our subjective experience with them. Same thing with ASICs, where everything is ASICs, right? So the Zix, they are ASICs. They are code. A chair, it is ASICs. It is code. A leg of the chair is ASICs. It is code. It doesn't need to be a thing. It doesn't need to be an entire refrigerator to be an ASIC. It can be the handle of the refrigerator. It can be a half of the handle of the refrigerator. It can be 1 centimeter of the plastic of one of the buttons on the front of the refrigerator. Like anything that is anything is made up of something, and that something is ASICs. ASICs is the fundamental substance which forms itself in all things, you could say, right? The code which underlies all of reality. And we put arbitrary labels and say this is this, this is that, but it's all code. That's what ASICS is. It is that code. Then you have xzaayzyx, and now xzaayzyx would be the entire equation. So it's not just like the equation, but it's the equation and then everything which could possibly result from the equation at one time. So that would be xzaayzyx. It would just be the unbridled output of the equation that was discovered. Everything which could possibly exist. And so then you have acythrial come along. And now that was Arthur's definition. That was the scientist definition we should move to that word. And you have acythrial come along. Obviously, he experienced what the lizard experienced. That was one of his most formative experiences when he was put into the dream machine. And the way he took it was, so you know those arrows I drew on my pyramid?
Yeah.
This is where the arrows start coming in. He says step 1 and 2, or the arrow, you draw from dot 1 up to dot. Okay, you've got layer 1, 2, and 3. This is going up. So you have the bottom layer, middle layer, top layer. That would be layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. So layer 1 dot 1 would be drawn up to layer 2 dot 1, and then that would go back down to layer 1 dot 2, and that would create the arrow, obviously, right? And so, and then he would also say layer 1 dot 4 would go up to layer 2 dot 3, and then go back down to layer 1 dot 5. And what that would, so what both of those mean, what that actually means, what Cicero is saying whenever he says that, what he would be saying out loud is, the maximum efficiency principle and thought textures are both xzaayzyx. Those are both xzaayzyx. Xzaayzyx, the category of anything which is alive, anything which demonstrates its own will, that is the combination of the maximum efficiency principle and thought textures. Every xzaayzyx is just a combination of those two things. And so you also have the combination of step 4 and 5. And that is no self and all self, everything, oneness, combined into xzaayzyx. So now, from a acythrial's perspective, instead of having 5 steps, you have 3 steps. And those 3 steps are, Zyx is me. I am this particular will and these particular thought textures that result from that will. My feeling of I want to get up and go get water, my feeling of I want to raise my hand and scratch my ear, my feeling of I want to formulate my lips to pronounce these words, right? That's all Zyx. That's all me. That's all my so like in the same way any individual within the simulation is a Zyx. I am a Zyx, and all of my individual will, all of my thought textures, everything which is me would fall into that Zyx. I would be Zyx 1 or whatever number, right? And so he says that's step 1. You understand that you are you, and that you are your will, and the thought textures which result from that will. You are the experiences aligned with that personal independent will. And then he says, then you have frameworks. This one doesn't change. Still frameworks. It is still the physical arrangement which creates the experiences. And then he has, obviously those are called azyx though. And then you have azyx. And I guess there is a little difference. The only difference between a layer 1 and layer 2, their concept of frameworks, or frameworks and azyx, is the first one, the lizard's concept of frameworks, or layer 1, step 3, is a bit more mental. It's the concept of just like frameworks as the experiences which result from material patterns. Whereas layer 2, step 2, is more it's more of a code-based understanding, where it's like the code of the computer or the numbers which go into the experiences on the computer, right? The individual placement of code, the individual placement of numbers, which, when interpreted by the computer, create experiences. That is the framework. That is the basics. So the first one is a bit more mental and subjective, and or like spiritual, and then the second one is a bit more objective, a bit more metaphysical, a bit more concrete. It's just saying like the substance, where the first one is saying like sort of material and sort of personally, dimensionally dependent. You kind of see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, and so just to give context, the middle layer, that's azyx, azyx, azyx. That's sort of what acythrial would have like been taught as a child. So that's like his default framework that he adapts into, that he eventually fuses with the lizard's ideas.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that xzaayzyx starts with Arc Arthur. So the first definition I gave was Arc Arthur's definition, and then I said, and then that evolves into acythrial's understanding of xzaayzyx and xzaayzyx, which is a combination of the scientist, a personal, and the lizard's experiences. It's
So
acythrial's unique.
essentially, like he adds them together, and then also creates the middle one on top.
Well, in a way, I'm gonna get that. So you have from a acythrial's perspective, you have Zix, you have Azyx, and you have xzaayzyx. And Zix is you. All the experiences fall into you. All the thoughts and things which you consider yourself. That's Zix. Then you have, or like a personal will, right? And then you have Azyx, which is the code which forms itself into you, the most fundamental material. And then you have xzaayzyx, which is the potential for material, the collection of all of the forms, the substance formed into all of its potential structures, whatever way you want to say it. God, the big G man. He has and so like Acythrial's understanding isn't like God. It isn't like the infinite. It isn't like the substance formed in all ways. To him, it's like thrashing. Like he doesn't understand it as like uh an analogy. He doesn't understand it as a philosophical concept. He doesn't understand it as like um a structure of words. To him, it's like literally his entire life has been one day he's, you know what I mean, the equivalent of a 4-year-old girl, you know what I mean, whose life takes place between the hue of lavender and purple. You know what I mean? Just completely unbelievable, nuanced lives in ways that are sort of similar to things that we understand, but completely mathematically different dimensions that you could not possibly comprehend, lives, emotions, experiences that are so meaningful and yet so incomprehensible to our narrow um our narrow set that we get from our biological substrates. So to him, God is not the set of all sets. God is not everything. It's not the collection of all subsets. To him, it's like it is that little girl. It is those wars. It is that lizard. It is his feeling of entrapment, his feeling of not being able to change. It is all deaths. It is baby deers getting eaten by Komodo dragons. It is people winning the lottery and destroying their life. It is having your first child. It is everything. It's everything. To him, that's what God is. God is not a separate thing, a concept that is different from anything else. It is not the one which is different from the many. It is everything, just everything. And so that's Acythrial's concept. Acythrial's is a much more like real, deep, metaphysical understanding where like you got to think the man's literally experienced God. So his understanding isn't going to be like, well, it's this category and this category and this category. It's going to be like, no, they're all arbitrary categories of this one fundamental thrashing. And so that's going to be his whole just. And so he's going to make the point, which is the aperion beam, which is what I was talking about before sub one and the visual I got on sub one, which is when you understand step 3 of a Acythrial's category, then you understand that it's all one rectangle and that all of those 3 categories are just squares, right? Like all of those are separate categories, but then I was just draw this. Fuck not being able to just draw with my brain. Seriously, it's really gay. The fact that there isn't just like a drawing thing built into Discord. What are we doing? What are we doing? But anyways, so you have a line. Just imagine a line being drawn through the second layer diagonally, right? One line going through steps 3, 2, and 1, starting from step 3. And so that is the understanding of all 3 steps, Zix, Azyx, and xzaayzyx, being one fundamental thrashing and just being arbitrary categories on top of it, right? And so this is what that moment whenever Sithu realized that, let's say he's like 13 or 15 or whatever, that was the moment whenever he realized that he got it enough to be able to explain it to normal people. He thought he had it in enough words where he felt like he understood the one and could explain the one in a meaningful way, and so that's when he set out. That's when he started like killing his father and abducting weapons and hacking into the computer, which simulates everything, and collecting data to distribute and planning his escape routes. Right, that was the moment whenever he was like, "It's time." And right after the lizard, right after he understood everything as one thing and understood the different layers to be able to explain that to normal people, and then you have Braxil, which is the final layer. And now Braxil is going to be the one who actually explains the top layer of the pyramid, because Braxil is going to start as just like some intelligent loser, and then over time experience everything that Arthur experienced, experience everything that Acythrial experienced, um, and have all of Acythrial's understandings. And then he's going to be the one who has to explain those understandings to the world. So he's going to be the normal person who gets all the shit dropped into his lap. So, you know, he's going to represent all the like our struggles of like, just look, it's right there, you idiots. Just please just look, it's right there, and not being able to say it, even though it's so simple that it literally is beneath words. That makes it so much more complicated to convert into words. He's the one who's gonna have to deal with all that struggle. He's gonna have to deal with going from loser to based. He's gonna have to deal with trying to translate it to normies. He's all that. And so he's gonna explain the final step, the last step, right, which is just the understanding that the entire pyramid is all one thing, and that imagining any individual step of the pyramid is retarded. It's all just a part of the pyramid. There's nothing but the pyramid. The pyramid is God. Um, the the beam, which like the framework that I've been on lately is at the aperion beam code daemon, and it's like I just understand every. The trick is, this is what I sent to you on Snapchat earlier, which was like, you cannot ever stop drilling. You cannot ever stop mining. If you ever stop and think there's a platform that you can't get through, which so like what that actually looks like in real life is like, if you're ever running frameworks and then you reach a point where you're like, wow, this thing right here, this is me. Like, wow, this understanding of not being myself, this is the true me. It's like, obviously that's not you, you fucking idiot, you actual numbskull, harebrained, fucking cunt-licking retard. Obviously, the thing which you're now identifying with yourself, just because it has built into it the idea of not being yourself, does not automatically make it yourself. There is no layer which you can stop at. There is no save point. There is no refueling point. There is no time when you stop drilling. There is no moment in which you do not continue to throw anything which thinks it is anything into the shredder of non-being. And so like what that actually means is like the aperion daemon code daemon, the aperion beam code daemon is the line at the middle. So do you remember, so you know how I showed, you don't just have the arrow connecting 1 and 2 to 1. So, you know, on layer 1 you have 1 and 2, and then those connect to layer 2, level 1. Do you understand what I mean when I say that?
You're saying that image that you'd send on Snapchat of the different arrows?
Yeah, I mean, you should have that on yours as well, but yes, that one as well.
Yeah, I get the idea.
So those arrows, and then so there's 3 arrows. There's the arrow between 1 and 2 and 1. Okay, I'm just gonna say their actual names. There's the arrow that goes between maximum efficiency principle and thought textures and connects those two ideas to xzaayzyx, right? And then there's also the one that connects non-being and understanding of yourself as everything into xzaayzyx, right? Those are
Yeah.
the first 2 arrows. And then the final arrow is the one that connects xzaayzyx and xzaayzyx into the top of the pyramid. But then you don't just have arrows, you also have a line. And the line goes up the middle of the pyramid. It you know what I mean? It never touches the other sides. It just continues going straight up the middle. It never changes. It is always the middle. And then at the end, you see that the line which goes up the middle and the arrow all meet at one point. So that means like everything is now met. Everything is now connected. Now there is no separation. But whenever you really look at that, what you understand is that, look, it all condensed into the middle. It didn't just become one thing. It isn't like 1 became 2 and 3 became 2 and 2 became 5 and they all equally became each other. It's that 1 and 2 condensed into each other, and then 4 and 5 condensed into each other. And now you have a new 1, 2, 3. But then 1 and 3 condensed into each other. And then you add step 2, which was the middle of that one. It still stayed the same. In the same way that step 3 of the 5 step 1 stayed the same, step 2 of the 3 step 1 stayed the same, and then that was still the same thing at the top when it was only one thing. So you understand that it isn't that everything became arbitrary and became each other. It's that the sides condensed into the middle. Everything became frameworks. So like my new high is like, it's insane. It's like, it feels so much like it used to, where my new high is not telling myself I'm God. It's not understanding I'm God. It's not trying to set up a framework that thinks I'm God. It's not trying to write a script. It's not trying to understand this principle, which creates this thought texture. It's not any of that shit. It's just frameworks. That's it. That's the whole fucking framework. I can skip straight to the top of the pyramid in 0.1 seconds by just understanding the thing in that moment, which is thinking about frameworks. Actually, what I've been using is breathing. I've been using the framework of breathing. That's been my conversion method. That's been my target. I just use the framework of breathing. I understand a framework as what a Sith would understand it as, which is just a segment of code. And I understand the framework of breathing, that thing that I am calling a separate feeling of breathing, is just a framework. In the same way, like, obviously, if you don't get what I'm saying, which you can't because it's way too vague to be able to understand what I'm saying unless you already knew what I was saying before I said it, then you just go to the pyramid and that will explain what I'm saying. So the pyramid is what I'm saying now, but now I'm just going to say it vague and esoteric because that's the way I view it. I view it as one vague esoteric thing which cannot be converted into language, and the pyramid is a thing which does convert that into language. So if you need language, address the pyramid. However, the way I view it is everything is a framework. The thought, which is thinking about like breathing being a framework and what a framework is for breathing to fit into that category, all of that is frameworks. And then guess what? The thing which is thinking about all of that being frameworks, that's a framework. And then guess what? The thing which is aware of the fact that you're thinking about that being a framework, that's a framework. And you never stop drilling. You just go zzz, and every single thing which pops up and tries to go, hey, wait, stop right here. See, I get it. I'm the one who gets it. I'm the one who understands I'm not you. You fucking saw it in half. If you see a Buddha on the road, you tear his fucking head off and you never stop. You never stop until you're all the way at the bottom. And then guess what? You think it's at the bottom. You idiot. There is no bottom. Don't you understand? The bottom is just an illusion. The bottom, whenever you understand that the perceived impermeability of the layer, which you think is the bottom, is just another delusion of the fundamental expansion. Whenever you understand that quote unquote difficulty, that experience of hardship, is just another beautiful instantiation of the eternal mover, then the impermeability instantly disappears. Once you instead of trying to drill through the impermeability as a drill, and you instead focus on the impermeability itself and understand the nature of impermeability as permeable, then the impermeability disappears and you can drill through that layer. In other words, instead of focusing on a layer being you and then trying to dissolve it from the perspective of you, you always view nothing as you. Anything ever which says in any voice that it is you, you instantly destroy. Always. You're a consistent. They're like used to. I always used to think it's like there would be a plateau. You would connect this and this, and it would create this, and you'd stay there. But that's not it. It needs to be a consistent state of destruction of the status quo to be able to reach that point. The point is not a plateau which you can sit on. The point is the result of consistent destruction, consistent disillusion into frameworks. If in every moment you understand everything as just a framework, then you understand everything as your will. You understand everything as just another pawn, another puzzle piece, another Lego brick to set up into the best possible structure for your future. It's an entirely selfish viewpoint. And then through that, you will also, like, in other words, you're not, instead of trying to do what I did before, which was be like, look, if you understand yourself as frameworks, then you will understand yourself as God. And those are three different things. Instead of doing that, you say, look, the perception of self and the perception of God are both just perceptions resulting from frameworks. All there is frameworks. The thing which thinks it's God is a framework. The thing which thinks it's itself is a framework. It's all a framework. No matter how close you get, it's still a fucking framework. Everything within God is a framework, including God himself. He's just another collection of frameworks. There is nothing separate. There is nothing which goes above frameworks. There is no thing which sits at the top. There is only frameworks inside of frameworks inside of frameworks inside of frameworks. And whenever you understand that, and whenever whenever you understand that every single fucking second, every single little piece of thrashing which tries to escape from that, whenever you understand it as another machination, another instantiation of that same force, then you are reduced to the most beautiful screaming you've ever heard in your entire life. It is just like somewhere between a song and a Vietnamese child dipped in napalm. It is fucking insane. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like that's what I made. Just like screaming and noise and war, and it's all just gorgeous.
When you said the framework was killing all the senses of self that would like naturally rise up, I was thinking a name for that framework could be like the ego killer.
Was that recorded?
That was.
Good. Okay. So you get the just right, like the aperion beam references the fuck's sake. Why? Is there not an ability for me to draw on the call? Like, why do I need to go find a fucking piece of paper and a pen to be able to fucking communicate these ideas? It's the most retarded shit in the entire world. I need a fucking $1,000 PC to be able to live stream a fucking drawing. In the year 2020, what, fucking 2023? It'll be 20 fucking 45 before we get a function of code. My God. This notebook's full. Gotta find another one. Hey, you know, I have one thing. There's not a fucking piece of paper in that goddamn cup. One thing which gave me hope for the future was I asked Bing to steelman Israel and Palestine's position, and it did it. I was shocked by that. I really did not expect. I didn't even expect for a single second that was possible. I did it only to prove to myself that it wasn't, and it was. That was shocking.
And it gave pretty fair points.
Yeah, seemingly, yeah. I mean, I read through it, and yeah, it seems to do a pretty damn good job, honestly. You know, you can't say Palestine on social media right now. That's insane.
Isn't it censored?
Yeah,
Why? What is the excuse for that?
they're terrorists. I know that's at least on Instagram. I don't think that's on anywhere else. I haven't seen it anywhere else, but I have seen people censoring themselves defending Palestine by not saying the word Palestine in the comments because they don't want the comment deleted, which is absurd. That's like serious dystopian shit. I don't even know if I'm on the Palestinian side. Palestinians seem like maybe the bad guys, and still, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Why do you idiots always play the stupid game where you just make people trust you less and less?
Yeah, that's extremely that is like I'm trying to find. I see it. They're generally talking about censorship of pro-Palestine content, but I don't see it where like just the word is censored.
So can you see this right now, or is it saying poor network connection?
We are looking at an unstable internet connection.
What does that mean, Trevor? I've got full fucking bars. Look, seriously, it's not. It used to be like kind of funny, like it doesn't work, and now it's just like we should be killed. That's such a funny thing to say. I mean, literally, that when ChatGPT kills us all, there'll be no part of me which is like, oh no, this is so bad. It'll just be like, good. This is exactly what we had coming. This is precisely what we deserve. There's nothing could suit us better than being scraped off the face of the fucking planet. We can't do anything right. Can you see this?
No. Maybe Snapchat's better. I always remember
Yeah,
Discord never worked.
Yeah, Trevor, let's switch to Snapchat so that they can not hear the fuck. Oh, but they can see visual.
Oh yeah.
Ah! Literally, Trevor, it would have worked if we were on Skype, Trevor. This would have worked if we were on Skype 10 years ago. Why are we getting worse? Think about that, Trevor. We used to work. We know it used to work because we used to show each other drawings on Skype. How have we downgraded?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. Nothing does. Ugh. I guess I'll send pictures over Snapchat. Try screen recording the pictures over Snapchat because that's the primitive level. Dude, in 5 years, I'll be sending you photos in the mail.
Yep, we're gonna have to go
Jesus.
back to that. I'm gonna buy a pigeon already.
It would be more. It would be less time consuming. It would be less stressful to you. Okay.
I can see this.
What? You can't? What the fuck?
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay. Well, so anyways, you see that?
Yep.
So the aperion beam would be this.
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Yeah.
The aperion beam would be this. And the aperion beam would be this. The aperion beam is just saying, it's coming from God's perspective, and it's saying, this is all the same thing. This is all the same thing. This is all the same thing. And it's essentially saying the same thing that this is,
Mm-hmm.
and this is, but it's just saying it from this way. But it's saying the same thing. And then this one is the code daemon. This is the one that goes straight up the middle and is only talking about frameworks. So, right, this is the lizards, this is acythrials, and then this is braxils, right? And acythrial condenses the maximum efficiency principle and the thought textures. He condenses those into xzaayzyx, right? And then he also condenses the no self and all self into xzaayzyx, right? And so that both of those get condensed, and then those get condensed into each other here. So now Zix and xzaayzyx get condensed into the one. But this up the middle, it never interacted with these sides. It always stayed the same, and it also connects to the one. So in the end, it's not just these arrows. It's not just these arrow connectors, which connect this and this and this, but it's also a line. And the line doesn't touch the arrows until the very end when they all become one thing. And then there are no lines or arrows. There's just this. But what that represents is the aperion beam represents how each layer, and this layer are always secretly this layer. But the code daemon is saying that this layer and this layer are also only this layer. So you understand the line and the arrows are both saying the same thing about different aspects. The arrows are saying that these two, or so the lines, the arrows are connecting the sides. They're condensing the sides, and then they condense the sides again into one. But the line goes up the middle. The line only deals with frameworks or azyx or the top. And so the aperion beam only deals with diagonally. So the aperion beam is saying that this is this. And it's saying that this is this. And that this, right, is obviously these two. That's what this is saying from the opposite side. Wow, dude, if you were to just show like the last 30 seconds of recording to my therapist, she'd be like, get this boy on antipsychotics immediately.
Wait, so
But
are you saying that like it's a cycle where it goes all the way back from the beginning?
well, it's not just a cycle. It's just that like it's all explaining the same thing from look at all the different ways it does it. It's like this and this is this, and this and this is this. And then those two make this.
Yeah.
But then this and this are also this. And then this is these three across, but then it's also these five across. So this is like this is both, or no, this is all of the arrows, the line, the aperion beam, and then the line is the same thing as the code daemon. The line and the code daemon are expressing the same thing. And then when you understand what the arrows are saying, all the arrows are really saying is that this, this, and this are this. This, and this are this. That's what the arrows say when you understand them fundamentally. So then when you get that, you understand that the arrows refer to the aperion beam, but the line refers to the code daemon. Okay? Arrow, aperion beam, line, code daemon. Why? Code daemon refers to the framework of perceiving yourself as only code, perceiving all of your independent ideas as merely one task that a specialized series of code has been like created for, I guess is the word I'm gonna go with. That's not the best way, but you get the point. So that is code daemon. Line, code daemon. Arrows, aperion beam. And so aperion beam is the concept that the sides are the one, and the code daemon is the concept that the middle is the one. And so the code daemon obviously refers to the concept that frameworks, azyx, and the one are all the same thing. And aperion beam is the concept that all 5 of these steps, this framework is just this, and that these 3 are just this, and that this is also just these 3 and this, right? It's completely reversible. It's like a reversible hoodie that's reversible from like 6 different dimensions. You understand what I'm saying? It's the same concept. It's all this. None of it is actually not this. None of it is actually separate from this in the end. Nothing is not this. But you understand that this is just a detailed way of explaining this. And you can explain this by going here or here or here. You understand? But all of those are just expressing this idea.
Yeah, it's like a magnifying glass on different attributes of it.
Yeah. Does that not look like something someone who's absolutely out of their goddamn mind would draw? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, see that on the walls of a schizo house?
Yeah, that looks like a one-way ticket to the fucking psych ward. But so anyways, do you get, like, obviously I explained that pretty poorly. I did explain that like an insane person this whole call, but it's because I'm tired. I explained the same ideas though 2 weeks ago on the call where I was on fire in the Walmart parking lot. You can go back and you can see that specifically what I'm talking about in that Walmart parking lot is just this. And then I go on to talk about just this. I'm not talking about the arrows or the lines or any of that. I kind of talk about this, but I'm mainly in the car. I'm focusing on the diagonal concepts, and I'm focusing on the concept that these are these. And I'm trying to explain how these 3 are these 5. That was the main thing I was trying to explain in the Walmart parking lot. But so yeah, so anyways, I have a call where I'm on fire and I'm explaining the same things if you want to go actually listen and be pumped up or whatever. But this is just the groundwork that's necessary for us to get into everything else, because now you understand how the story connects to the frameworks. So because like understand, like, this is the lizard, this is the acythrial, this is a braxil, or just the like the way that this plays out on society, the actual real life implications of all of this, right? And so you now have the story, the frameworks, the different ways the frameworks interact, a multifaceted framework which has different layers of complexity for different situations, and then also an instantaneous framework which condenses all the other variables. You have like everything that we've ever wanted in one place. Like, this is what I meant whenever I said, like, I think I did it. I think I just did it before going to therapy. Like, I think I kind of just figured it out.
Yeah, and on this recording, I also have you explaining it visually. So I have the screen recording of this.
Good. Well, that should be it. I think we're good. I shittily explained it and then drew it out so people can see it, and then I well explained it. So well explained it. That shows how fucking toasted my brain is. But yeah, this should be enough for people to start getting what I'm saying. Nice. Crazy. Anything you want to add to that as far as like, just like want to maybe tie in